I'm required to cover some basics on this. Even though there's a video you have to watch. How many have already seen it? Oh, good. Well, let's get this out of the way then. Okay. If you guys can come up with, I got 4 groupings here, so let's just go. You guys. Okay. You answer that question. Hey, this group right here.
No, it's okay.
You answered that question.
If you look closely, you can see a little part of
Okay. Now, this group right here, these 2 rows, you answered that question. You guys answered this question. You got 5 minutes.
What? How is it different from...
I have so many answers.
Wow!
In all seriousness, who wants to answer this?
It has to be talked about, but you guys can come up with an answer. I'll give you 2 minutes. Come up with an answer.
This is a loaded question.
Actually, I want to see what it says. Well, this
I have a good idea.
All right. I wanted to go see if they're ready.
One other than the obvious.
You guys are supposed to answer this one question.
Other than the obvious, human nature and needs.
Okay, you guys ready? Adam.
What?
You want me to just answer?
No! Yes!
Hey, this group ready?
Oh, God.
Yes.
All right. So, we have a spokesman stand up, read your question, and then answer it. Now, this is not a test, but I am grading you. Okay, guys.
All right, our question was, who are the most frequent victims of sexual harassment? And we said females.
This took an unexpected...
Okay, I have a grade for you. You ready for it?
Sure.
Or you have more?
Oh.
Can you explain your answer? I want Cecile to be my teacher. Or do you as in, you should have more.
All right. I'm not going to say you're wrong. I'll be over here.
All right.
Okay. So early statistics on sexual harassment indicate that this was a problem of working women 25 years ago. Studies currently show that a growing problem exists for men as well. There's also an increase of homosexual harassment incidents reported. So it's not just women anymore. It's everybody.
Equality.
But it used to be. So you're okay. Okay? You get a C minus. I'm a teacher. I give grades. Hey, this group. Okay, guys.
Our question was, who harasses and do they have identifiable traits? So we said everyone can harass, really because it's anyone can harass. And the other question, do they have identifiable traits? Sometimes they can be blatantly obvious. Like other people, if you're looking from from a view, you can see that it's really obvious. And other times, if you're being the victim of harassment, it's really not that obvious. So sometimes it can be, and sometimes it can't.
Okay. That's a pretty good answer. People that do harass and sexually harass, sometimes they do it secretly. They isolate somebody and they only do it on key parts, and they're good the rest of the time. So they're not always going to be this obnoxious person that's loud and does this. Sometimes it's people that do it that you would have no clue are doing it. So it's just a matter of don't assume that he's been doing it or she's been doing this. Don't assume that, well, they don't act that way. Okay, so it's really important that if anybody complains to you, especially if you're a program director, that you treat it serious and you approach one of the camp leaders and pass it on to the right person. Okay, next question.
don't mind me, I just like standing and pacing around. Our question was, why do people sexually harass others? Now, other than the first obvious answer of human urges and that they're horrible people, the first thing that came to our minds was it's a power thing, it's a control thing. It's I can bend you to my will, I can get what I want from you, and that satisfies part of my urges. Which is, again, back to what Connor said, some people don't realize that they're in that other position, that you don't realize that person is, whether it's obvious or not, controlling them. So that's a big part of it.
Yeah, the majority of people that do sexual harass, it has very little to do with sexual desire, but more about power, about keeping people in their place. Once they realize that somebody's uncomfortable with it, they ride that as a way of power. Okay, so that was a very good answer. B+.
Want me to go home my whole
Oh yeah, you guys got a B-. It was better than their C. Okay. All right, last group.
What is sexual harassment and how is it different than just harassment? Sexual harassment is doing things that invade someone else's privacy and make them feel uncomfortable in a way that might be different from normal harassment. Normal harassment doesn't really target anything specific about your gender necessarily, because sexual harassment usually has something to do with your gender or maybe just like your body and physical privacy. Normal harassment might simply just be not being nice, really. So, yeah.
Bullying,
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Basically bullying.
All right, good answer. B+.
Can we get
I don't give very many A's, so. You guys need to understand that harassment includes but is not limited to slurs or any other offensive remarks, jokes, or other verbal, graphic, or even physical contact. Kicking them, tripping, punching, things like that are considered bullying and harassment. Sexual harassment, very different. Unwelcome sexual advances. They could even be, I like you, will you go out with me? No, I don't want to go out with you. I like you, will you go out with me an hour later? 2 hours later, I like you, will you go out with me? If you keep asking them in that manner, that's sexual harassment. Okay? Offering an employment benefit. Okay? Especially if you're in a leadership position. Hey, I'll give you some time off if you give me a kiss. Okay? You guys laugh, but it's been done before. Okay? Threatening an employment detrimentally as a demotion or disciplinary action, or taking benefits away from them. Visually leering or making sexual gestures or displaying sexual suggestive objects or pictures are all sexual harassment. Okay, sexual verbal abuse, saying things that are of a sexual nature. Derogatory or offensive jokes of a sexual nature. Sending emails or texts or commenting about anything that has to do with sexuality. Okay, it's not to be tolerated at camp. So the video was pretty clear. If you watched it, you went through and they had all these incidences of what determines sexual harassment. If you feel like you're being sexually harassed, it's your responsibility to notify your superior. If it is your superior, you go to the person up from them. Okay? If you're working in a program area and it's your program director, you go see the program Nick. If it's your area director, you go see Nick, the program director. Okay? If it's Nick, then you go see me. If it's me, you go see Bill.
If it's Bill, you see the God.
No. If it's Bill, in the office, there's a phone number for Chuck Brashfield, and you call him. If it's somebody, you just go.
Or Hell himself. You'll come down from the...
Okay. But guys, on a serious note, this is real stuff. Okay, we don't want to have any issues with this. That's why we have to go over it. Okay, I want to cover some basic things here. Okay, can sexual harassment claims be made by an employee even if the employee consented to sexual activity? The answer is yes. Submission to sexual activity by an employee to their supervisor is sexual harassment. Okay, it implies that there might be benefits. So it's one of the reasons that when we go to youth protection, why certain interactions are inappropriate while it can't. What do most people want if they filed a sexual harassment claim? They want it to stop. It's really all they want. They don't want you to suffer or whoever's doing it to suffer. They just want it to stop. Okay, and as I approach that, that's what I will try to get it to happen. If I have to move you from an area or dismiss somebody, which I don't want to do. Okay. How can we prevent it? What's the best method of preventing it from happening?
Be a decent human being and don't harass other people.
All right. Yes, but the big thing is treating it seriously. I know we joked a little bit about things here and there, but it's got to be treated seriously, and it's got to be appropriately addressed.
One other part of that is to make it stop and stuff. The person may not be aware he's doing it, or it makes you uncomfortable. You have to say something to that person.
Yeah.
Say, hey, I don't like that. That's all it has to be, or that makes me feel uncomfortable. If it continues, elevate it quickly. Don't stop.
Okay, any questions at all? All right. Now, youth protection while in camp. This is a heavy, heated thing that I feel I need to address. Okay, you guys, you turn into more than just a staff by the time we're done. Okay, you will actually make friends up here that will be your friends for the rest of your life, and you will meet them for the first time at camp. Okay, you will. When I went to camp director training, they introduced all the people that were there and these camp directors, and there were 12 in our room, and they all got up, and 4 of them announced that they met their spouses while being on a youth camp. Okay, but at the same time they said, we did nothing inappropriate at camp, but they did get to know them. Now, I'm not going to be naive and think that there's not going to be people that go, oh, I like you. But we do have to talk about what youth protection is. I don't like sending people home because they ignore some of these things that we're talking about. Okay? So as we go through this, you need to understand, but youth protection is not just for us, but it's between us and scouts. It's between us and the adult leaders. Okay? There's an age thing that we need to really delineate. Okay? When we establish your room assignments, and sometime today I'm going to lay out some papers, and I want you guys to kind of pick who you want to room with, because I don't like putting people there and you're like, well, I want to be with my friends and stuff. So, but your rooms are your private areas, okay? People should not be in your room that don't go in that room, ever. Okay, it's just, we got to keep that stuff separated, and there's a reason for it. I've been asked actually to read this, okay, so I'm going to have to read it. The Boy Scouts of America will not tolerate any form of child abuse, neglect, emotional abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse in any phase of its programs, and will report all offenses to the proper authorities. Youth protection is a very serious matter. VSA and camp directors, program directors will be trained and educated on effectively handling youth protection issues. So, in the event, yes?
So with that being said, do we as camp staff, are we considered mandated reporters?
The mandated reporters are the adult leaders that are 21 and older, and you'll get that training through camp, National Camp School. It's part of it. Okay. The rest of you, we want you to be aware of things so that you can properly report it to myself, to Bill, Nick. Katie will be trained in that too as well. It's part of her training, and Christian, and Bruce as well when he's up there. So we do need to report it to the proper authorities. But you need to understand that abuse can be happening already before even camp. Okay, there can be boys abusing boys or leaders abusing boys, so we just need to be aware of some of the signs and things like that. Did I see a hand go up? Okay. Youth can be abused in their homes, by a sibling, by an older scout, by a scoutmaster or another adult leader, in their schools, in their neighborhoods, in programs, and even in scouting. Everybody here has to go through the youth protection training for both venturing and if you're not 18 or older, scouting. Okay, because it covers all areas. And, well, I'm not a scout, I'm a venture. But you're going to be around scouts. So scouting has to be part of that. We need to do both of them. They expire every year, right?
2
Okay.
years.
Is it 2 years now? That was every year.
Youth protection is 2 years.
All right. So if you had it last year, you're good. If you don't, if you're new, then you need to get those trainings and make sure they're done. I think it's on the new program, right? That you go through and get those trainings.
Yeah, we're right. Yeah.
And you put the date that you got your certificate. But you need to bring those certificates to camp along with your physicals.
I think it has a place for the venturing one, but not for the scouting one.
Okay. We still have to get the scouting one. There's a place online at the Golden Empire Council website
MyScouting.org.
to get scouting.org to the trainings. MyScouting.org.
My dog. My dog.
Yeah, myscouting.org is like a deer hunting website.
Oh, my.scouting.org. All right. But yeah, the venturing is there, but we do have to have the scouting. Okay.
So we need, because I think I did like the scouting one, but I'm over 18, so do I still need to do
You need to do the venturing one, yes.
You need to have both.
Okay. And that goes to everybody. And I know you say, well, I'm in the kitchen, I'm never around scouts. But you are around scouts. You see them come in and, come in and out. So that's required. Okay. Signs of abuse might be another scout physically hurting, kicking, calling names. Okay, what's the first thing we do if we see that? Okay. Hey, you guys need to understand that while we're up there as staff, you guys do not discipline scouts. Okay? You're not the disciplinarian up there. Their scoutmaster is. If you see abuse, you just get it to stop. Say, hey, that's not cool. Knock that off. Then you need to report it to your area director, to program director, and so that the scoutmasters can be told about it. If it's scout to scout abuse. If it's leader to scout abuse, you see a leader smack a kid in the back of the head because he says he doesn't want to go to campfire, call out the leader. Okay? You know what you do in that situation? You see it happening. What do you do?
Why do you do that?
No? Why do you do that? Who said smack him back? Okay, somebody smack him. All right. In all seriousness, okay, you go up and you just stop the abuse and say, hey, this isn't cool. And we actually had a case last year where there was some verbal abuse going on, and one of our staff, who was actually only 17, just got between and said, hey, that's not cool. You don't call a scout that name. And it was a really bad name. And the scoutmaster started yelling at him. Okay? And he came to me later and goes, did I do a fine? And I go, yeah, you did fine. Okay? You just need to stop the abuse to the scout. And if you have to, take the boy and just say, come with me. We're going to go to the lodge. We're going to go see someone. And yes.
Basically, your role is a shield. You stop it, and if it continues to
And
happen,
report
you
it.
just separate.
Okay, you don't have to chew out the scoutmaster and say scout law and you start quoting him all this stuff. Just stop it and report it immediately. Yeah. Hey.
You pull out the books of the scout law and you start smacking them.
Yeah. Okay. So. What about, we had a couple situations, I remember, what is the role about us being with scouts and numbers and things like that? Yes? Too deep. Okay, you can't have one counselor with one boy going off and doing the nature merit badge. or going on a nature hike. Okay, how about one leader and 2 or more boys?
No.
Yeah.
If you're around.
Wait, you guys.
There should be another adult.
Hey,
That's debatable to me.
Right, you're a merit badge counselor, you're 17. You're teaching a class. There's only 3 there. 2 don't show up, you have 1 there. What do you do?
Well, if you're in your program area and you're around other people, like say other counselors, I think you're fine.
If they're visible.
Yeah.
Okay, if they're in eyesight, you're in your program area, that's not an issue. If there's other people there. Okay? But if you're by yourself, you have to say, we have to move our class. Nobody's there. We got to move our class. We're going to go down over here by waterfront where people can see us. You have to do that. What?
To clear up the 1 leader and a bunch of youth guys.
Listen.
So to clear up the 1 leader and a bunch of youth, it is okay. The idea of the 2 deep leadership is as long as there's 2 of that specific age and gender range, then you have an okay group. You need 2 adult leaders for the camp out specifically, not every single moment of the camping area.
The scouts have a 2 deep leadership there. Okay, if we're there with them and there's 2 boys or more, and you're the only advisor, you're going off on an environmental science thing, and you have 2 or more boys, that is youth protection. Okay. Okay, it's not okay if you have 1. You either have to cancel the class or find another staff member to accompany. You cannot go alone with any boy ever.
Or the scout
With 1 boy.
The scoutmasters and adult leaders of that kid's troop, they're most likely there to facilitate in that.
Yes,
role if
and
needed.
you
Ask them
can
to go
say,
grab their leader.
if they show up, say, go get one of your leaders or a friend who doesn't have a class right now. I can't do this. We can't do this unless there's 2 of you. Okay, so everybody clear on that? Okay. Yes.
So that upper level of the lodge, people have to use computers up there. Like last year, I had 1 scout, and do we have to have 2 deep leadership up there? I never clarified last year. I did.
You asked me. I said as long as people are downstairs and doing that.
Okay.
But if for any moment there's nobody in the lodge, you've got to make adjustments and call for a staff. Say, I need a staff member to come be up here with me.
Okay.
Just call me or something like that.
And then Katie after Anthony.
I don't know if you're gonna touch on this next. Hey guys, this is important because it has to do with something important. Youth protection is not just for the youth; it is for you also. It is so that you do not get put in a situation where you don't realize you broke youth protection and now there are claims being made against you that are not true, but you cannot prove that because you broke youth protection and there's no one else to back you up. If you think that's a thing that I'm not saying it's happened at our camp, but I'm sure if I get on my phone in about a minute and a half, I bet I can find a story where it has. It's just as much for your protection as it is theirs. So
Okay.
do not ignore it.
All right. So accommodations. Okay, we have to, as a staff, have under 18 be housed in rooms and tents, and then 18 to 20 in different places, and 21 and older in different places. Those 3 groups have to stay separate in a venture crew. Okay, with certain leeways on other things, but that's what we try to do at camp. So later, as you guys talk about who you'd like to bunk with or whatever, and I want to do that because before we go up there, there'll be assignments made, and if you don't care, then I'll put you, wherever we're going. And to be clear, we have 6 girls that are 16 or 17 and under on staff, so you'll probably have to bunk together in a couple places. Yeah. What?
I'm already 18.
Yeah, we have
Yeah.
a couple staff turning 18 middle of summer.
Okay. I have birth dates and stuff, so we'll keep that in mind. All right. So privacy of youth, gentlemen, ladies. Okay, you cannot accompany a youth to a restroom. You can't accompany them into their private tents. You can't go with them anywhere like that. They cannot go into your area, your sleep area. Okay, that is a big no-no. Okay, finding scouts hanging out on the bunks in your tent is dismissible. Okay, don't do it. We're going to have a new rule that we already put it into our new handbook. It just says no cameras or phones are allowed in the showers. Okay, so if you see that, if you see a boy with a camera phone or a phone and they're waiting in line with showers, say take that back to your camp and drop it off. They're not allowed here. We're having signs made up that say no phones or cameras are allowed in the showers. Yes.
We have individual showers. I don't see a problem.
We had a big problem last year.
Really?
Yes.
Like law enforcement involved problem.
You can, if you put a phone up there, you could see into other showers.
And even if people are in individual showers, it doesn't mean someone else can come
They
along.
they slide the cell phone under the camera under the door and hit the camera thing. It was happening.
Teenagers are stupid and will find ways to be stupid.
So there's going to be new signs on all the showers that says phones and cameras not allowed. Okay, I'm telling you, not because I think you guys all take your phone to the shower with you, but I want you to be aware of it if you see it. You walk by the scout showers and you see one of them with a phone in their hand. Say, those aren't allowed here. See the sign? Take it back to camp. Okay? It's just we're trying to avoid two issues that came up last year.
I won't talk about the issue that happened last year, but I'll talk about an issue that I had with a friend of mine. Don't think of it as you're getting them in trouble by telling them don't take their phones there. Think of it as you're preventing them from making a very stupid decision.
Yeah, you're keeping honest scouts honest. Okay.
And just a quick thing, what has happened in the past hasn't happened in the staffing areas. Ladies, you're okay. Nothing like that's ever happened.
All right.
Boys are also okay.
Hey, okay, one last thing. Secret organizations are not allowed. Okay? I know. Hey. Okay, Order of the Arrow is not secret.
Team is dead.
Sorry, they're dead.
Dead
Okay.
and buried.
Leave it alone.
Okay, if you see some group of scouts up and they're doing this ritualistic thing, we probably need to know about it. It happens. I knew that was going to open up a can of worms. Hey, back up here. I got a few more things to do. Okay.
Don't make me use my range, boys.
We started and it stopped. Okay. Okay, hazing is not allowed at camp. Okay, we don't haze new staff members. We don't point out that, rookie staff members have to do this or that. Okay, there's a good possibility that staff and program and things, if we have an imbalance in areas, you may be assigned something different one week. Okay, so we don't put down, we don't say, the kitchen is for this. The kitchen keeps us happy. Okay, we need to show appreciation for every program and area up at camp. You need to express gratitude for everything that happens. Okay, you guys don't realize how good we're going to have it with Sharon Harder up there as our head cook. Okay, she deserves your songs and praise every day of thanks. And the kitchen staff. So, they keep us happy and show that appreciation. Okay, yes?
So we have a lot of traditions up here at Winton that I know of, especially around tribal program or campfires. And if it's something where the scouts have an option to be involved, you never want to be something to that person force them you have to do it.
Right.
If they don't want to do it, they don't have to do it.
Yeah. Okay, if they don't want to be blindfolded because it freaks them out, we accommodate them. Okay? And so it is something that, thank you, Connor, that's a good point. Yes.
I was gonna touch on tribe. Who has never been to Winton before, real quick? Who has never ever been to Winton? 2 people.
Hey, no hazing.
Just a hand, guys, just a hand.
Hey! I don't waste time with signs. I use range voice. Sorry.
Okay.
The reason I bring that up is because you guys obviously don't haze each other, you dinguses. But the most common place I've seen scouts haze other scouts is walking out to tribe.
Yeah.
Because they think, oh, and again, you guys are eventually going to find out what tribe is. Again, it's not secret because they're secret organizations. The biggest thing you see people do is bump or push or nudge or whisper weird, scary crap. Stop that. That instantly makes tribe not fun for the first years going through. So pay attention to that specific area of camp at that time.
Sometimes we make fun of our
Yeah.
Or just blatant.
Or they'll just call them chickens and stuff like that for not.
Literally, the way I handle it, because typically I'm the back of the line, is I'll give them one warning and then I'll send them back to camp with one of the adults. 'Cause it's
Okay.
okay.
On the lines of the camp again. Okay, bullying is never okay. Youth leadership should be monitored by their adult leaders. Okay, if you see it happening and there's an adult leader right there, go immediately to that adult leader and let them know. Say, this kid just pulled a knife and threatened this other kid. Hey, guys, please stop. This stuff, I'm not saying it because it might happen. I'm saying it because it has happened. Okay? He pulled a knife and said, if you fart again, I'm going to kill you. Okay? It really did happen. Okay? So, if you hear it, you hear about it, you go immediately to the adult if there's one there. Okay? If not, I mean, stuff like that, you can't just go, oh, I'll mention it later at lunch. Okay? It's got to be handled right away. We can't dismiss something. If you see a kid punch a kid, you can't just say, oh, stop, knock that off. We'll talk about it later. It's got to be immediately handled. Okay, certain things just aren't tolerated. So, and again, we don't discipline the kids. Okay, if we do have to do some sort of thing in our class to get them to behave, we call it positive discipline. Anybody have any idea what that is? Positive discipline. Anthony, you do the best job of that I've seen up at camp.
Please explain, because I have no idea what you're talking about.
Really? Okay.
Explain it from an outsider's perspective.
Positive discipline. Okay. If somebody's not doing what you want them to do, you highlight the ones that are. You praise them. You say, "Hey, thank you for listening. Thank you for having your headphones or your earplugs or whatever ready to go." And then you just look at the other boy and go, "You're almost there." Okay.
You're almost there.
Okay, it's a positive way. You don't have to put them down. Guys, listen. You don't have to put them down. It's you highlight what's happening right for what you want to happen. Okay, Ben actually did. I seen him do this once. Okay, two boys walking down. One of them, his shirt was unbuttoned, untucked. And the other one wasn't. And he pulled away. What's your name? And the boy that was dressed up right, and he goes, "This looks awesome. Tucked in, you're buttoned up, everything looks cool. I love it." And he looked at the other boy and said, "I'd love to love yours, but..." He goes, "You work on that." Okay? And so it's not, we're not putting them down and saying, if you want to be a good scout, you should, clean up your look. It's just a matter of how you go about talking to them. We cannot be the people that bully scouts into doing what we want. We cannot harass them into doing what we want. We can't call them names or anything like that. We are on the spotlight. You guys understand that? Okay? All it takes is a group of boys to go to their scout leader and say, this person at this program area called us all stupid because we weren't listening. Okay, that's you can't win by going that route. Okay, try the positive discipline first.
Can we call them dinguses?
Dingus is a turn of a day.
I would say no. We don't call them anything that they might perceive as being negative.
Because if they perceive it as negative, they go to their leaders, tell their leaders, and then we don't get that troop back again.
Anthony called me a dingus. I don't even know what it is, but it sounded bad. Okay. Anthony, and then...
As the staff member who probably walks the line the most between positive reinforcement and straight up harassment, don't do it. Because I'll be honest, when I go into range mode and it's also a safety thing, there have been times where I've had to dial it back and go, I'm sorry, I legitimately went too far, but you really need to not point the gun at someone. It makes me upset. There is such a thing as too far, and I have done it, so please don't, because it gets weird. It gets awkward when you do.
All right, thank you. And you had a hand up.
Oh, yeah.
Guys,
Getting kind of back to the scouts fighting in between scouts, because this is a moral and rule-wise gray area. If there's like a knockdown, drag-out fight between two scouts, are we just supposed to yell at them, or are we supposed to break it up? How do we handle
if you think you might get hurt, you don't. Okay, you just yell, you say, stop, stop. You get right up in their faces and yell, stop. And put your hand there. Don't physically grab them and throw them, because then we're dealing with other things. You just separate them, get them away from each other. Okay? Yes. Question?
So if a scout what do you do if a scout begins like a physical confrontation with you as like a
Tree.
like
Hands up, back away.
take it, just take it,
And yell stop.
just retreat.
Yep.
Okay, great.
And you guys cannot get,
Yeah, I know.
you guys, you can't get physical, no matter how belligerent they are.
Do not swing back. That creates 1,000 more problems.
Okay?
Do not swing back.
Hey, yes.
So we had a question. So if there's a fight between two scouts and one has a knife and he might hurt a different scout or some other weapon, what are we supposed to do?
That is a...
Okay, I'm going to reiterate what I just said. You shout stop, stop, stop. You get between them if you can. Don't put yourself in harm's way. If you want to protect the boy, you can distract. You can, if he has a knife, you can throw something, but just get out of there. Get away from that area. Hey, okay, and in 28 years of doing scouting, I've never had another scout attack another one with a knife. I've had them brandish it because they're doing a power play, but I've never had an attack. But I'm glad you're thinking of the worst case scenario there.
Sorry,
Hey, what?
the I want to be a cop part of my brain just kicked on. At that point, which I'm not going to say never going to happen because we live in a weird world, but it's one, most likely not going to happen, camp. Two, at that point, you're dealing with a situation that is so out of our scope that it is now involving life and safety of not just a scout, but another person. At that point, I don't know what the BSA says, but at that point, it's at a level where you either do something or you don't. There's no...
Stop him.
It's either stop it or back away.
Or run away. Get the other boy
In
and
that
run away.
situation, yell, scream, get help.
Yeah, get help.
Get help.
Yeah.
There's enough people around that they should be close enough. And we have radios.
Get help and stop it immediately.
Yeah.
If you can, but if you don't get in between them, you're probably going to get stabbed.
And for those that were up there last year, we've got double the radios we had, so there'll be more people with radios.
Don't get crazy.
All right, so I'm almost done. Guys, almost done. Remember, units are responsible for the discipline of their own boys. You are not. Okay, as soon as the behavior, positive reinforcement, if that works, okay, then maybe kind of going off, not away from the group, but just private one-on-one. Say, look, I really need to cover this, this Boeing thing. I understand you've already done it, but I really need your cooperation. Can you help me? And then, try to de-escalate any bad behavior in a class that way. Okay, if you have to, you can send a boy who's not behaving and say, I'm sorry, but you'll have to catch up with this later. I can't finish with your doing what you're doing. I've asked you twice to stop. And just ask them to leave. Okay, and it's okay to do that if they're affecting the rest of the class. Okay, but don't discipline them, don't call them names, don't, we can't go that route. Yes?
What if it's a scout that's in your troop back home or that you know personally?
You're in the, if you're teaching a merit badge and you're involved with them and you're in charge, you got to remember that. You're in charge. Even if they're your friend. You've got to, if they're your friend, you can corner them and go, look, I got to do this. You're really messing me up. You even have to leave or help me.
And in that scenario, even though for example, my troops come into camp, I am an assistant scoutmaster of my troop. When they're at camp, I am a staff member. It should be
Yes.
the leaders that are come with them that take care of the discipline. Even though I would technically be in that position if I went with them, it's not my job at that point. I'm now serving as a staff member. Let them take care of it.
Lauren.
I'm just gonna reiterate what Anthony said. Like, we wear the green and they wear the tan kind of thing. Like, we're staff. If it's part of your troop, you're not really in their troop at that point. You're a staff member, not a scout.
Okay.
Or a leader, or whatever.
Okay, I got to reiterate two things real quick. Physical contact between you and scouts, okay, should be kept at a minimum. Shake hands, pat them on the back, high fives. Okay, only touch them if you need it in order to demonstrate. You know, they're holding the bow. You're putting your hand on theirs and showing them where their fingers go.
And ask for permission first.
And only when necessary. It is unacceptable to give long hugs or initiate frontal hugs with a scout, to give massages on the shoulders, to engage in wrestling or other physical horseplay with scouts. Okay, I don't even know why this is here, to give pats on the buttocks. Okay.
Good game! That's why.
To administer corporal punishment or play favorites. Okay. Now, one last thing. Okay. In the event you become friends with somebody that might turn into something romantical, please keep in mind you must keep your behaviors appropriate. You cannot single yourselves out. You cannot go on walks down to the waterfront or to Flag Rock and think that that's okay. So we didn't do anything. Okay? If you like someone, you can hang around with them as long as you're in a group of other staff members. Okay, you cannot isolate yourselves ever. You cannot both sleep on sleeping bags in the middle of the lodge on a Saturday night because you have the day off. You still have sleeping quarters you must remain in, and they're to remain in theirs. Okay, just because you're there on the weekend doesn't mean it's a free-for-all. You have to abide by youth protection while you're up there. Am I clear on this?
Yes, sir.
Hey, violations of these, this is what I do. I'll give a warning and suggest that you guys stop what you're doing and change it, and I'll look to see if it happens. If it happens again, you'll probably be dismissed, or one or both of you will be dismissed. Okay? Get numbers and communicate after camp. Get together after camp. Nothing during camp. Everybody clear on this? All right.
So I'm going to be talking about teaching and learning strategies, and I'm actually super excited because I just took a whole class on this semester, so yay. So one of our primary jobs up at camp is teaching merit badges. That's a lot of what we do. So when you think of learning, we know that not everyone is going to learn the same, right? Can somebody give anyone how do you guys learn best?
Kinesthetic.
Okay, good. So movement, demonstrating things.
Make it so you're interested in it.
Okay, good. Yeah. Listening. So you've got verbal.
I remember things when I read them better.
Okay, written.
Being able to connect to the material.
Yep.
Tactile.
Okay. Yep.
More visual.
Yeah. Okay. So we've got a lot of different learning styles. So I'm sure those of you who have been to camp and have taken merit badges, it's the worst thing in the world to sit there while your merit badge instructor drones on at you for 45 minutes out of a book because you're just sitting there going, can I go back to sleep now? Because I have done that when I'm even teaching and it's horrible. So sitting there reading out of a book is A, not only boring, but B, they're probably not going to retain a lot of the material and they're not getting anything out of it. And we're there for the scouts, and we want to make sure that they're getting something out of what they're learning and that they will carry it forward with them, because there's that thing that says so many scouts will end up finding their lifelong occupation because of a skill they learned while they were in scouting. So make it interesting. Okay, so I don't have the materials to demonstrate this, so I'm just going to talk about it. Okay, so if I have a cut on my finger, I'm going to put a Band-Aid on it. How do you guys wrap a Band-Aid around your finger? Just directly around it?
You go.
You put the pad on the cut and.
Yeah, okay. So, diagonal. What happens if I just put it like directly around my finger and then I flex my finger?
It exposes it.
It exposes it. Germs are gonna get into my open wound. So, best way to wrap it is also that. Yes, I don't know who said that. Woohoo! Yay! So diagonally, that's gonna be the best way to wrap a bandage. And if you didn't know that, you just learned something new, right?
Yes. Knowledge is power.
So, okay, how many, is anybody here left-handed?
Whoa.
Oh, wow. Okay, so
we will reign supreme.
Okay,
Okay. Not only is there a lot of you, that was really creepy.
So if you can only do something with one hand, and okay, so like say you break, if you're left-handed and you break your left arm, it's probably going to be really difficult for you guys to like write or tie your shoes or like do any of the little things that you need your hand for. So what do you have to do if you like don't have the use of your dominant hand?
Use my right hand.
Yeah, you have to adapt. You have to come. You have to overcome like what's going on.
I'm ambidextrous.
I wish I was ambidextrous. So there's supposed to be like this whole demonstration where I have you guys do like band-aids, but point is like having like demonstration, getting involved is more fun than sitting and listening to a lecture. For those of you who have not gone to college yet, lectures are horrible. So effective learning, like you can do the best you can as an instructor, but there's also a responsibility on the scouts part to learn effectively. And like you guys know the difference between like just active listening and hearing. Yes. Okay, so what does active listening look like? Lol, stop.
Like you nod to affirm, like.
Yeah, okay, so like, good. You're showing me that you're paying attention. Yeah.
Eye contact.
Eye contact.
Yeah, you're tracking them if they're moving around, you're watching.
Yep, good.
Asking questions about the material.
Good, okay. Yep.
You're not like looking off. You're not like let's say like you're not like messing with your hands a lot or messing with.
Right, you're not like doodling on your notes. You're not on your phone. You're not doing whatever. So you're engaged with the teacher, making eye contact as I'm looking around, taking notes, asking questions. So, because as a learner, you also have a responsibility to actually try and get something out of what you're being taught. So, objectives of learning. So, as a learner, you should get something out of it. You should be able to do something as a result of what you're learning. Merit badge requirements are a really good example of like, you learned this, now show me that you've gotten something out of it. So, for example, I'm thinking. Okay, first aid merit badge. So if you're taught to, they don't call it the Heimlich maneuver anymore.
Pelvic thrust because of the copyright.
Yeah. So you guys all know.
No, I'm serious.
No, it's not called a pelvic thrust. It's called a
abdominal thrust.
Thank you. Yes, abdominal. Thank you. So, you learn how to do the abdominal thrust. Everyone knows what that is, right?
Yeah.
Like this. Okay. So I have seen, people learn it, and then I've had people tell me, hey, like when I first, let me backtrack. Okay. So when I was first doing my life, like the first time I got certified as a lifeguard, as Red Cross, I did BSA before that. Red Cross was my first year of college, and one of the things that they taught us was like, if someone's unconscious, you roll them onto their side, so if they throw up, they don't asphyxiate on their vomit. Well, they teach us that the first night of class. We come back the second night, and one of the other people in my class goes, my friend was like super out of it last night, and I didn't know if they were going to throw up or not. They were passed out, so I rolled them onto their side. They threw up. They didn't choke on their own vomit. So that is a very, very good example of applying something that you have learned. All right.
Talk about getting your money.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah.
On the idea of teaching by doing, it's easier to go through, to not necessarily memorize, but know your requirements for the merit badge. You can incorporate it into an activity. Because I know when I'm teaching sailing, I take them sailing because there's a requirement to learn how to do a certain turn, and that's part of sailing. So I just say, okay, they did that, they did that, they did that, all right, we're good, we can sign everyone off.
Right.
I don't say, all right, guys, we're gonna go learn this turn. You have one activity that encompasses multiple requirements.
Right.
So you can go and do something that's fun and get requirements at the same time.
Yeah, so like for life saving, when we're learning how to do escapes, we have this lovely game we play called Splashy Splashy, where so
Happy Splashy Journey.
It's a secret. So we can like incorporate, we'll say, okay, you know, like you have a victim who is conscious in the water, they are actively drowning, you have to go rescue them, and you tell the victim like, hey, if they don't perform the rescue properly, you grab them and pull them under, and it like is a way to incorporate, they're both getting in the proper rescue skills for an active drowning victim, and they're practicing their escapes from an active drowning victim. So it's like a good, try to encompass multiple things into one activity, because it's really boring if you're just like, okay, we're going to do 3A now. Now we're going to do 3B. Now we're going to do 4D. Like, okay, so there's a lot of asking you guys to imagine things in imagination. So imagine that you guys are going to teach a patrol 3 different knots used to tie a rope to a stake or a pole. Clove hitch, 2 half hitches, and a taut line hitch have been selected. So learning objectives are like after you've taught those 3 knots to the patrol, what should they be able to do with that information?
Tie the knots to.
Yeah.
Teach other people too.
Yeah. I like that answer, Laura. Yay, good for you. So properly tie the knots. Explain where they would be useful, because like I know that not every knot is. That's a lot of knots. Is used for every situation, and then so application, like you learn something. It's like I was talking about with my lifeguarding course. You learn something and then you put it into practice in a real world situation. That's like what you want to get out of learning, because a lot of the stuff that we learn at scout camp isn't just like arbitrary information. It's not like, oh cool, the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. So it's like information that people are like, how many of you guys actually learned something at camp that you have like used in life before? Yeah, see? So that's like living proof right there.
That's easy.
So another part of like that's gonna sound weird. Another part of learning, like engaging people to learn, is I have it in here as calling it a discovery experience. So it's any sort of occurrence when there's learning going on that has 3 results, and we've got, so during a discovery experience, you know, like when you're studying and you're like up until that point you didn't really get what you were learning, and then all of a sudden you're like the light bulb goes off and you're like, oh, I get it now. So like that's when you realize that like you know what you know, if that makes any sense. Like up to that point you're like, I don't really know if I know this or not, but like the light bulb goes off and you realize that you got it. You establish a need to know. So they discover that they don't know something that they need to know in order to succeed. So I'm trying to think of an example of this. You have an end goal in sight, and you know that there's this thing that you need to know in order to get there, but you don't know that middle piece. Arvin?
Yeah, so say you're trying to teach a patrol how to make an A-frame, they need to know, so you need to know the actual lashings that go into the A-frame. To know the lashings, you need to first have to know how to do the knots, and then, so that's why when we're teaching it, we start by first, earlier in the week, teaching the knots, and then moving on to teaching the lashings. But we told them at the start what the end goal is, and then they put everything together. Hopefully they've learned to not mess around the entire week, and hopefully they can build an A-frame. I'm sorry, I gotta get ready for orientation.
Your voice is already going away. I'm concerned.
No, it's fine. Save me all the time.
So that was a really good example of where I was trying to go with that. So it's like we were saying about that light bulb. You don't really Hi, hello, I'm still talking. Good to see you guys. Hi.
We missed you.
If you are my children, stop talking.
Whoa, that got weird.
They call me Mama K.
Mama K.
That's only a waterfront.
Mama, you okay?
That's only a waterfront thing.
Oh yeah, no one else is allowed to do that.
It's not a secret, it's fine.
Alright, okay. So once someone reaches that discovery moment, the light bulb moment, I'm gonna call it the light bulb moment because that sounds cooler. You have some different choices about what you can do at that point. So you can stop, like if someone says, okay, I know this, I don't really have any desire to progress any further, then they're cool. They don't need to go on. I mean, it's like, some people, they finish their bachelor's degree and then they're like, I'm cool, I'm done, I don't need to learn anything else. But other people want to go on to graduate school and keep learning. Take what they know from what you want them to know at the end of it. So it's like, you're halfway through the week working on a merit badge, and then you want them to be at a certain point. You say, okay, well, we've already covered these things. We still need to cover this stuff, and then you'll be at our end goal, like at the point where we want you to be. Or you can just give the full instruction. People will learn what they don't know already, and they'll review what they do already know. Okay, so this is where I was talking about at the beginning, people learn differently. So teaching and learning is the most important part of the process. So hearing, seeing, and doing. How do we, so hearing, one of the ways we learn ways within hearing, what is part of hearing. I guess that comes out. So one example, lecture, I'm standing up here talking to you guys and you're absorbing that information through your ears. That's one of those. Anything else? Hearing. What about if you're sitting in a group and you're all having a discussion? That's one you're learning while you're all talking together, right? Dramatization. I don't know what that means. Are we standing up here acting it out? I feel like that would go under doing though. That's
only if it's the kid who's doing it.
Okay. Yeah, I see what you mean. So what are so think about what I've covered so far. What are some of the things that you guys have learned by listening to me talk? Rudy?
Wrap the Band-Aid diagonally.
Yeah! First aid. John?
You got your bachelor's degree.
He's not wrong.
I mean, you're not wrong. I appreciate that.
Surprise, surprise, listening to a teacher ramble on about things from the book for untold amounts of time is ungodly levels of boring, and scouts really don't like it.
Oh, I thought you were talking
No,
about
no, no,
me.
no, no. He was not talking about you.
I was like, do I have to start acting out like a song and dance or something?
It just comes off as
Christian, I
unnaturally
need that in a
salty.
GIF. That's the new
Can I have my Leader Merit badge now?
That will not be edited.
Oh God. So visually, what kind of things do you see that are gonna help you connect? Material, words. Thank you. Yes. Reading. What else?
Diagrams.
Diagrams, charts. Demonstrate. Ooh, who said edge method? Who wants to explain what the edge method is?
It's explain, demonstrate, guide, enable. And then yeah, those are the words. So we had to teach the requirement on this, which was fun. So we took something simple like a square knot, which, to us that's super simple, but to new scouts, some of them don't know. So you explain what the knot is and what it does. You demonstrate tying the square knot right in front of them. Then you guide them through it. So they both start with rope. You kind of show them, you're like, all right, so you're going to take your right rope, put it over the left rope, and pull it under you. Guide it through. And then you enable them to try it both again on their own and to teach somebody new. Make sure that they have it. And then if they don't have it, you got to go back to the step that they messed up on.
Or you can get out of order. Which NLP tells you not to do, but you can.
But again, if they know how to do it, but they don't know what it's used for, which is in the explain, then they haven't totally learned everything about it.
So I found that a really good way to gauge if a scout has actually understood what you're teaching them is have them try to teach it to someone else. Because if they can do that, they've got it. The best way to learn. Yeah, Jeff.
That's also can be done in an activity. An activity allows you to gauge what people are understanding, and you can also have them teach, which will not only further their learning, but will further the learning of the person that's teaching. So really going and doing things gives you the opportunity to gauge who you're teaching and the skill that they're achieving, but also have them implement those skills, because that's really the enabling part.
And it gives you a break as the instructor too.
Yeah.
Which is much needed.
Yeah. What? Snap. What is free time? What is a break? We don't get that. And then, so, doing. We learn by doing, I also forgot, we don't have this at camp, but movies and TV are also a really good, watch in class you watch documentaries or whatever. That's on here, so I thought I'd mention it. Doing, so one of the biggest things I know that scouts get really, really frustrated is if you set them a task, you're like, okay, now go do this thing. They do it, they can't do it the first time, and then they get really, really upset and they don't want to do it again. Where is the disadvantage in getting something right the very first time you try it?
You can't learn from your mistakes.
Yeah, exactly. So trial and error is a really big part of learning. You learn something, you mess it up, you go back and review what you did wrong, and you apply that moving forward so that you're able to make strides. Lauren?
It's the same concept in have you ever heard of the Tower of Hanoi? They're a bunch of rings that you have to move. But you have to do them in a certain pattern in order to get to the optimum number of moves. And every time you mess up, you have to remember where you messed up and do something different that time instead.
Okay.
It's like the moron test.
Explain what the moron test is, please.
Isn't that what it's called?
There's an app. Yeah, there's an app. And it's like all these super simple questions that seem really easy, but then they trick you. And then you learn the patterns so you can get further into the test.
Oh, the idiot test.
Yeah, that.
Yeah, no, I know what you're talking about. Okay. Dumb.
Yeah, and also when you
guys.
When you do something the first time, a lot of scouts are like, oh, I did it, I don't ever have to do this again. And then they'll be like, 3 weeks later, like, oh, I want to get this for my first class. And they're like, wait, I did it, I swear, but I can't do it now. It's because I just don't remember it.
Yeah. figuring it out for yourself. So like, yes, as staff members, we are there to teach them, but sometimes it is best to kind of take a step back and not explain everything down to the very last minute detail, because that's boring and you get really tired of talking, but that's an opportunity for learning. Experimenting, and then like taking what you've seen others do, so that's like where as the teacher you will like demonstrate something for them, whatever that may be, apply it to your different program areas, and they take what they have seen you do or heard you do, heard you do, I don't know if that's grammatically correct, and they will, yeah, it is, okay, I'm smart, and they will carry that moving forward with them. And keep in mind that there's not always going to be like one big aha light bulb moment. Sometimes it's just kind of a series of a lot smaller ones along the way. Application. So what I've been talking about, like learning and being able to like actually use that in life later on is really important. Ask more questions because it fills time and gives me a break from talking. I get someone to give me an example of something they learned at camp that they've actually used in real life. That was a question. Sorry, I should have raised. Okay, can I get Anthony?
I don't know if it's necessarily I learned it at camp. I perfected it.
Or
at camp.
I mean something that you learned that you like, in a learning environment that you were able to apply later on in life.
My example is kind of like Inception. At the NRA training I had to do for shooting sports, they taught me how to be a more effective teacher, ironically, to our discussion. And that came in incredibly handy during camp because it allowed me to, as opposed to, like you said, being that teacher, it's like, no, you're doing this wrong, you need to fix this. No, being that hover teacher, being able to go, do this, do it, bring it back to me, I'll show you what you did wrong, then go correct it. Not me going, no, that's wrong, fix it. No, that's wrong, fix it. So that was something that was incredibly helpful.
Tony?
A lot of people probably use this one with first aid.
Yeah, that's a good example. And like, he was just that like hover teacher, helicopter teacher, where you're like standing over them the whole time. As an instructor, if you haven't taught a merit badge before, you'll get to know this. Like, if you take a step back and you have a kid who's really struggling with something and they finally like manage to do it, you will get so excited with them and like you jump up and down and you're like, yay, oh my god, I'm so proud of you. Good example, a couple years ago I had a kid in a swim class who could not pass his swim test for the life of him. He tried every day for the entire week, and then finally he had all of his requirements done for swimming except for his swim test, and that actual. And we had him come down during open time on Friday morning, and we were like, okay, this is all you have to do, And I got in the water with him, and I swam the whole test with him. I was right there next to him, and I kept pushing him, and he finished his swim test and pulled him out of the water, and he was like glowing. He was so excited, and it made me very all feely, melty, warm inside because I was just like, it's really awesome to see the scouts like making these strides and learning new things.
And kind of on that note, if you notice somebody struggling and you have a little bit of extra time, try to help them a little bit more. I know that I actually spent the first 15 minutes when we were supposed to be at lunch at the waterfront with another kid trying to help him with one requirement. And so I gave a part of my lunch to help him. And then once he finally got the swimming part down that he needed, it pays off 100% because you just see them like, oh my gosh, I finally did it. So push them to if they're like, I don't know if I can do it, like you can do it, encourage them and push them, and they'll learn that they can do more than they think they can do.
I just want to add, while we're saying try not to be a hover staff member, also if you see a hover adult leader, try Try to talk
I
to
would
them
be
and have
banging
them
a
step
stick
back
against a tree right now if I could.
I cannot emphasize that enough.
You need the kids to really learn it on their own. You don't want the parent to be doing everything.
Yeah.
We've seen that in some troops.
Yeah.
So yeah, based on that, a real good trick that I've learned over the years is if an adult leader shows up to a class and they're trying to insert, have to try them help teach the class, and usually they'll want to leave.
That doesn't work.
Do you want to come up here and maybe talk for a couple minutes and share some profoundly worldly adult advice with my class? Oh no, sorry, I gotta go do a thing.
But be careful with that though, because there are some adults that will be like, oh yeah, and they'll literally teach your class.
And sometimes they will teach it wrong.
Yeah.
Hashtag the range.
Someone else trying to teach knots and they don't know how to do the knots correctly. They shouldn't know whole class is doing it wrong.
It happens all the time. And
don't trust the adults. They don't know everything.
Okay, so assessment. What time is it? 9:45. I can't read analog
Yes.
clocks.
It's actually
Yeah,
9:50.
college grad.
9:45. Yeah. Okay. All right. So at the end of a learning process, we have like what we call assessment and evaluation. So like in school, that's when you take like a final exam at the end of a semester, and that's like the cumulative compilation of everything that you have amassed that semester in your brain. So I don't know, do all merit badges do like written tests at the end of the week? I know we do. No? Okay. All right. Anthony, did you?
I know for the shooting merit badges, with the exception of archery, there is a written test for archery.
Okay.
It's more like check the box type thing. But I know for rifle and shotgun, it's not so much. There is on Friday you will show that you know these skills. It's more I'm teaching you these skills and you are putting them into practice over the week and they're getting better and better and I'm seeing that you're using them and I know you know how to use them.
Okay.
Which is why that whole part of not being the hover teacher is because by the end of the week that you as the student should be able to do all the things I have taught you without me standing there telling you all the things. That is ultimately the goal of all the merit badges.
So aside from a written test, what isn't full?
So in like boating merit badges on the waterfront, or paddleboarding even, it's fun to like make a little game out of it that encompasses all the skills you've taught to the scouts and even let them like take leadership roles in that game. Like sometimes you'll do like a follow the leader, you get to do like all sorts of boating turns and stuff.
Yeah, I know like for kayaking we've done like, you say you do a course and you're gonna do like a figure eight through these two rocks and then you're gonna show me that you can like come to a stop at the end of it. Yeah. So making a game out of it. Games are fun. Who doesn't like games? Practical skills demonstrations aside from because like written tests are the problem with them is that they are too much like school and they don't come to camp to be like school. We all sit in a classroom, well most of us sit in a classroom 9 months out of the year. And some people are not good test takers. Just because someone is not good at bubbling in answers or checking off boxes or regurgitating the best way to cure or care for a scrape doesn't mean that they haven't learned what you've been teaching them. Alex, do you have something? Oh, yay me. So yeah, that's assessment, evaluate. Oh yeah, go ahead. So this is just like review what happened to seeing if the learning objectives were met. At the beginning of the week, you guys are going to learn how to do this. At the end of the week, did you guys learn how to do this? Show me that you can do this. What do you do if you have a scout who you discover that they have not learned what you tried to teach them? What do you do? How do you solve that problem? Are you just gonna go, oh well, you gave it your best effort, I'm just gonna give you the merit badge anyways? No, we are not a merit badge mill. Yeah.
If they're willing, you take them in Friday free time and try to teach it to them again then. If they're not willing, well then you can't make them learn it.
Exactly,
So they
yeah.
don't get the badge.
Or
My policy for the badges I teach is if you put in the effort, I will put in the effort. If you say, I wanna earn this badge, but it's Friday and it's an hour before campfire, we're out of time, I might tell you, well, I'm not walking a troop out tomorrow and I'll be at the range. Bring an adult leader or don't. And 9 times out of 10, that scout will be there with his packed backpack at the bottom of the range trail with an adult leader standing up there. His troop is coming up the trail and he's trying to get his last set of rifle shots. If I have the time and they're willing to put in the effort, why not?
Yeah.
So if someone puts in like their best effort the whole time, but they just don't have the skill, they don't get hurt, right?
So, David.
I'm just saying, we have merit badge counselor training after lunch, and I think all of these topics will be covered as far as whether they get it or not, and because a lot of it just says they must demonstrate knowledge.
So they don't have to be perfect at it, but it needs to be a good approximation of what the requirements say in the book. Lol.
Yeah, we can't like add or subtract
Yeah,
requirements
yeah.
from
Mm-hmm.
it. So.
More of what I'm trying to ask is, should we be looking for, if someone gets like close and has the effort to do the merit badge, should that be? Or no?
Then it gets down to what's the wording of the requirement.
Yeah.
Nothing more, nothing less.
If it says demonstrate this and they cannot demonstrate it on their own, even if they're putting in a lot of effort, you still can't say that they've done it.
Yeah, so if I have a requirement for swimming and I'm trying to teach someone that, they have to do a standing head first dive off of the dock and they keep belly flopping, a dive is a head first entry into water. I can't give them that requirement. Yeah, so so just really quick, finishing up here at the end. Part of being a good teacher, there's leadership involved in that. So you're gonna need to understand that your scouts, individuals, groups may have different needs. So that's how, the best way you're gonna teach. A lot of kids who are super hyper, especially the younger ones, the new scouts, they do not learn well by sitting there and listening to you drone at them. So the best way to teach them is probably going to be by moving around and actually doing things, because they don't know how to sit still because they have the attention span of a goldfish.
Less.
3 seconds. That's the attention span of a goldfish, by the way.
Just a little thing on it. If you absolutely have to sit down and teach out of the book, I've found it helpful just to throw out occasionally just some sort of outrageous scenario that pertains to the matter. Pretty much just do something to keep them entertained while you're droning on.
Use your confidence.
You need to know and use your resources that are available, and with that, so part of that is know your material. Good communication, and so your learning is always going to start with the object. Oh, sorry, Arvin, did you?
You can finish.
Okay. So learning, it's always going to start with this is what you should be learning, but that whole rest of the process doesn't necessarily follow in a sequential order. It's going to involve discoveries, evaluation, learning applications. Applications are going to lead to further discovery, so on and so forth. It's not okay, first this happens, then this happens, then this happens, and boom, they know it.
I just wanted to add that, especially if you're teaching a merit badge, a lot of things, we're going to give you guys usually a binder of what other people have done. But what I would do is take a look at that, but you can teach the material your own way. So even if you don't have the materials with you now, you can go up. We're going to be asking you in the first couple of weeks, is there anything that you need to teach your classes? So, for example, we were teaching first aid. We didn't have any first aid equipment to teach. So we're thinking about just doing everything verbal. And especially the parents didn't like that. Get a lot of complaints. So what we did is actually we bought some ACE bandages and some triangle bandages. And we were able to do a lot of head wounds, leg splints, lots of first aid stuff. So even if somebody's done it another way before, take a look and really dive into it yourself to see how you want to teach it. So I think that's important.
Yeah, like a lot of merit badges will have like lesson plans written out from them for years past. Just because that's how it's worked in the past doesn't necessarily mean that's how you have to teach it. If you think that something could go better if it was put on a different day, or if, like combining different subjects, do that, because I mean, cover the material, but you have some leeway as to how you want to do that. I'm just about out of time, so I'm gonna wrap this up. Know your group. Make learning interactive and make it fun for them. They come to camp to have fun. Learning, obviously, but you can make learning fun. It does happen. So, yeah, mic drop.
All right. So, management of camp inventory and equipment. The first thing is that you need to ensure that your camp has a sound inventory and accounting system prior to the camp. You know, if we don't know what we have, then that just puts us up for failure going down the line. Kind of these questions are self-explanatory. How many of you have been required to sign for camp equipment? Have you ever checked out equipment? How many of you understand the need for responsibility with camp equipment? You know, that's kind of a thing where it's like, you know, we all know that. We all understand that.
Christian acknowledged.
And then there's Anthony.
Like thousands of rounds of ammo.
Ooh, that's true. So, not wrong.
I'm not wrong. I probably am.
So, our council has built up a considerable investment in camp property and equipment. Our camp offers striking evidence of the community's support of scouting. It is most important that everyone give council property the best possible care. Our equipment and inventories are valued at a unspecified amount of money. So we really need to make sure. It is actually quite a bit of money. They've put a lot of effort into Camp Winton recently. And it's because of all of you guys. The staff makes Winton, and they're starting to see that at council. So normally what I'm supposed to do with this is we split off into program areas, and I give you a piece of paper and you write down. That's not really going to work in this format. So I just want to kind of go around. Any hands? What kind of stuff do we need to inventory for your program area? Let's start with waterfront.
Sailboat parts.
Sailboat parts.
PFDs.
PFDs. Rescue tubes. I heard buddy tags. That's an important one.
Boats of all types.
All the boats, all the paddle boards, all the paddles, everything. Shooting sports. What do you guys need?
Oh, here we go. Shooting sports needs string making and arrow making equipment for archery, bows for archery, targets for archery, arrows for archery. Cleaning equipment for the guns themselves, ammunition, targets, skeet targets, batteries to power the skeet thrower, and my protective equipment. There we go, and various medications for me.
Did you say safe? Did you say gun safe?
Gun safe. There, I have one,
Yeah.
and it's bolted to the floor, so I don't have to account for it.
We need to make sure that it's there. I mean,
It's always there, and I found the code for it.
oh, nice. That's pretty amazing, actually. Let's see, Scoutcraft. Rope. That's basically it. You need rope and you need logs.
I would like to announce something at Scoutcraft that was discovered after camp. You know how we were kind of low on tomahawk?
Yeah.
Okay.
How many tomahawks?
We went through a box up in the hobbit hole and found a box with 25 brand new tomahawks.
It's always in the Hobbit closet.
You guys, inventory and keeping track of it is important.
If you're missing something, it's most likely in the Hobbit closet. That's where we found all the stand-up paddleboard paddles that were there the entire summer.
Oh.
Yeah, that's how it works. Eagle's Nest, what do you guys need?
We had kids begging to go on a paddleboard. Where was that?
First aid, kind of all the basics. Because exactly, the junior version of Scoutcraft. Nature, what do you guys need?
Fishing related equipment, all of that stuff, rope, terrariums, a telescope, tarp. All the various trees in camp, we keep a list actually.
That
Each
is
of them
true.
have a name.
And one of them smells like butterscotch. All right.
Actually, I think it's actually 27.
So how about handicrafts?
Duct tape.
You need duct tape.
Stop taking my duct tape.
The Rangers duct tape is right. I made a point.
Spray paint, we run out of that apparently all the time. Even though we don't actually use it, we just always have empty cans lying around.
That's not a good start.
We need. You're the one who climbs in the
A lot of
way.
art supplies. So
Just art stuff, just things. We just need lots of things.
is it just program areas that need inventory?
No.
Kitchen. Like obviously, Bruce, he needs his tools, so make sure that you actually sign for those tools when you take them.
Don't take his duct tape either.
And don't take his duct tape either.
If you say that again, everybody's listening.
All right, so what we're going to be doing this summer is we will actually have a sign in and out sheet for the tools in maintenance. That way that if they go missing, Bruce can actually find the drills that you leave in your tent for no reason.
No, let's rephrase. Bill will find, Bruce will find you. And then you will find the drill.
And then of course there's also trading post and the commissary. They need to keep track for selling purposes so everyone can actually be fed and whatnot. Now, is it just material goods that we inventory? No.
People too.
Okay, people. Sort of. We want to keep track of you guys. We want to make sure you're safe. But there's something else very important. There's something very important that we inventory before camp even begins. Saw a hand? Might have something? No?
The Skittles in the Skittles.
So, not the Skittles. Probably the most important thing that we inventory happens before camp even begins, and that is the skills of the staff. When you... yeah, very When you guys... Basically, your audition for Camp Winton, when you come in for your interview and you talk about, I have these skills, I've done this at school, that's something that we write down, we keep track of, and we say, that person is someone we need for this program area. You guys, your skills are the most important thing at Winton. So, good on you guys. Let's see, how do we keep inventory? What kind of ways do we actually track what we have?
Spreadsheet checkup.
Spreadsheets, lists, pens, okay.
Wi-Fi managers. Absolute guesswork and no actual record keeping. I'm not speaking from my practice.
You're not wrong. That's the
speaking
bad
from the
part.
system I took over.
So, most of our work is kept either through paper lists or spreadsheets or on the computer in binders. All of the program area directors will actually be given a specific binder, usually a laptop if we have them available, and a full box of all of the information that you need for your groups. So you have your merit badge books, so you actually know the requirements that you're teaching to. You have all of the items that are in your program areas that you keep track of, everything from your rope to your duct tape. And if you're in a certain specific area, maybe there's times where you check out items to scouts. You need to make sure that you get those back because that's an added expense we have to keep repairing. So there's different kind of procedures for the equipment. Not only is the signing in and out and keeping inventory, but it's also the maintenance of the equipment. We want to make sure all of our stuff is in proper working order. If our duct tape isn't sticky, then we can't use it. It just doesn't work. Then you tie it. Okay. Loss accountability. This is very important for trading posts, but also for everyone because with your items, it's an added cost. And a lot of times with program items, they're more expensive than the stuff that we sell in the trading post because we buy them in very large quantities.
I was going to say, especially when you're going to another program area that's not yours, respect the equipment and things that are there, especially for the waterfront last summer. No idea how many times we would have PFTs missing, and we'll only have 20, and then there's like 50 scouts who need PFTs, and it's like, how are we supposed to teach our class? So respect the equipment if they're going somewhere else. It's not great.
So yeah, you always want to respect everyone's program areas, all their equipment, because they're the ones keeping track of it. If they don't know that something's been taken, then that's just going to mess up their entire system. For waterfront, it's a big safety issue. Same thing for tomahawks, or fire equipment, shooting sports equipment. There are certain things that really you just shouldn't be taking in the first place. Charges and rental procedures, pretty much we don't have to deal with any of those equipment. It's mostly signing in and out. Expendable supplies. So these are items such as first aid equipment that we use for our demonstrations. Yes, the lighter fluid for tribe. The items that we use once and we have to keep repairing. Yeah, baling wire you might be able to get back, but that's tough.
I'm just saying we need more.
And so it all comes down to reduce, reuse, recycle. We want to make sure that we have enough of the items that we're using throughout the camp. If we can reuse them, that means we have more budget to put into better program items. Maybe if we save enough on hot chocolate mix, we can get a staff lounge. That's how this works.
Hot chocolate, I swear.
Oh, okay. So maybe we're not getting the staff lounge because hot chocolate. All right. So, big picture is whatever items that you're in control of, that you've put on your responsibility, not only should you track that, but you should also report back to your program directors so they know that all the equipment in the entire area is secure and accounted for, because they can't track all of those stuff. Katie can't move every single canoe by herself. That's just not going to work. Katie could probably do it. Waterfront guys, you can slag off a little bit. Katie's got it. And then each department should have a checklist for all their staff members, and just keep a track of where you are at. There is no spotted owl in this room.
That was an absolute Camp Freudian slip.
That was very much so. So another big thing that you guys should be keeping track of, besides your skills, your materials, is your attention spans. No. Okay.
As he stares directly at Lauren.
Hey.
So the big thing that you guys should keep track of is your sleep and your morale. You got to make sure that you are awake. You guys, because I actually didn't get any sleep last night, so that's kind of really ironic. Yay. So you guys want to make sure that you are in full condition to be doing whatever it is you're doing, because not only are you teaching the scouts, but sometimes you actually do have their lives in your hand. I don't know how Anthony became a range director.
And all of a sudden,
it shows how much disrepair our shooting program is.
Yes, it did. So just to wrap things up, keep track of items, make sure that they're well maintained. Please respect the items in everyone else's program area, and this is going to be an awesome summer. Thanks, guys.
Okay, so I'm going to tell a story real quick. While I'm telling a story, I want you guys to think of a time where, I want you to think of one of two things, or both, up to you. A time where you were in a situation where you felt absolutely not in the loop, like an uncomfortable situation where you were with a group of people who you were not connecting with on a cultural level. Like you were visiting a friend's house and you felt not uncomfortable like bad uncomfortable like I don't know what's going on and I feel weird because I don't know, that kind of thing. Or a situation where you were maybe enlightened and you were like, whoa, this is different and I'm not used to this and this is cool and I want to learn more about it. So think of one of those two things while I'm telling my story. My story took place at the 2010 National Jamboree. Who went to the 2010 National Jamboree? Woo! Yeah! That was a high five in case you didn't tell. There on the video. There you go. Just out of frame, you don't get to see it. So I was at 2010 National Jamboree. It was like the third day, walking down the Merit Badge Midway. Decide to stop, sit at the side of the road, try to do some patch trading. End up, me and my three friends are talking with 4 scouts from England. Now, when you think 4 scouts from England, what do you guys picture?
Respectable tea drinking.
Red uniform.
School bus.
Socially awkward.
No. Okay. I'm going to get very blatantly obvious with what I want you to say. What did they look like?
White.
Wrong! One of them was a white kid, one was Indian, and two of them weren't Arab, were from the Middle East, which is like, okay, cool. And that wasn't the part that I was like, whoa, that's insane. I'm like, it's England. They controlled half the world at one point. That doesn't surprise me. But you get what I mean. People immigrated to England just like they came to the U.S. The part that weirded me out, not weirded, weird is not the right word, but the part that made me as a 13-year-old American kid who had never traveled outside his own country was talking with these kids. All of a sudden, the two Middle Eastern kids excuse themselves and walk away very politely. And I'm like, where are they going? We're having a good conversation. It was time for call to prayer for Muslims. And I'd never seen that before. They went off to the side, they laid out their prayer mat, they got out their compass, which I thought that's the part that I'm like, whoa. Scout skills in action. Got out their compasses, faced the right way, and for 5 or 10 minutes, we're still having our conversation. They're doing their prayer. And I'm standing here like, my tiny, sheltered American child brain doesn't know what's happening right now. And when they came back, like, I had this look on my face like, I don't know what just happened, but I'm so terribly interested, but also so nervous to ask any questions. But it was really an eye-opening experience, like, whoa, this is a thing, and there are other people on this planet that I've learned about, but I've never actually seen. And that was really, really cool. So that was my big moment of not just, whoa, other cultures exist for real, not just in a textbook, but also they all do scouting, and it's all something that connects different cultures. Lord Baden-Powell, and I'm going to screw the exact quote up. I was actually trying to look it up on my phone. Lord Baden-Powell at one point said when it became clear that scouting was becoming a worldwide movement, he said his hope was that it would become global enough that scouts from other countries would recognize that they have shared morals and would eventually lead to better world relations, less war, less all that stuff. Kind of working? We'll see. So, from you guys, you had a couple minutes to think about it. Are there any times you can explain or demonstrate that you were in a situation similar to mine where you were like, whoa, that's cool and unusual and I'm not used to this, but I want to learn more about it? Or a time where you were like, this is cool and unusual, but I'm confused and I don't feel comfortable because I feel like I'm out of place? Anybody got a story like that? Yes.
Well, when we went to Camp Fiesta Island last year, it's down in San Diego, but we managed to arrive there right when they were having a, what does it call it? I want to call it a rainbow festival, but it's not a rainbow festival. It's like a, yeah, it's
Pride Parade?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
But, and there was lots of stuff that, some of our younger scouts were really, really uncomfortable with because it was it was encompassing the whole 9 yards of lesbian, gays, and transgenders.
Ooh, that's a whole. We need to go back to the YPT discussion, I think. No, but that's actually a good example because that's not ethnic culture. That's still a culture though, and it's something that is prevalent in today's society. You have to realize, okay, that's a different lifestyle, but you have to not be part of it. That's not the word I'm looking for. You have to accept that that's part of the world.
Respect.
Yeah, you have to respect it. There you go. You have to respect that that's part of the world you live in. What, anyone got another, I'm weirded out and uncomfortable, or whoa, that's cool, I want to learn more about it? Yes.
So I think most of us can relate to this one. My first year working at Camp Winton was definitely a
I was
weird
waiting for someone to
cultural-
say that.
Yeah.
Winton is a culture shock, I will say that. Winton is very much its own little weird...
Microbiome.
Yes, microbiome. Yeah, it's its own little microcosm because even getting into Boy Scouts in general, we're a crazy group of human beings. But Winton specifically has its, I talked about this last year, it has its traditions, it has its way of doing things, it has its quirks and oddities. If none of you have been to one of these trainings or been to Winton before, in about an hour, it's going to get a little weird.
It's going to get a lot more than a little.
So, any other, I saw a couple other hands go up towards the beginning, any other interactions with other cultures that you were either like, whoa, or like, whoa?
As part of Wood Badge, they do you get 5 tickets you have to do. One of them has to be a multicultural or a cultural awareness one. For my troop, we had about 40 boys, and we contacted Troop 50, which is which is at Sacramento. They operate in the Buddhist church there, and they're all Buddhists. And so we invited them to our troop activity, and then we went to theirs. So the boys, when we were talking about, I like to listen to 12-year-olds. They're funny, but just without them knowing I'm listening. But they were like, "Oh, I wonder what they're going to be like. I wonder what they're going to do. Are they going to show up in gowns, and then are they going to have special necklaces, and then how they're going to speak?" And when the boys showed up from Troop 50, and we worked on I forget. Well, we had a fishing demonstration, and working on that merit badge, and the boys showed up in uniforms just like they did, and they talked just like they did. And after it was over, at the Senior Patrol Leaders Council the next week, they talked about it, and they went, "Wow, they were just like us," and they were totally expecting something different, even though they were a different culture. And so that was eye-opening, and we talked about that at our next meeting before we went to theirs, and said, "Look, there's virtually no difference. We both have a respect for deity and for a God, and we have faith, and we believe in all the things that the Scout oath and law provide." So, and that was an eye-opening thing in that they were expecting different. You didn't get it.
Yeah, and just to be clear, culture isn't just ethnic. It's religious. It's lifestyle choice. It's any group of people that do things in a specific way, whether it's, again, based on where they physically dwell geographically, what they believe in spiritually, or how they choose to live lifestyle-wise. So anything along those lines. Yes?
I went on a mission trip to Mexico with my church, and it was really cool, like the culture shock, but like when we actually started to see the differences in culture and like how the religion worked out, like if you've ever seen like a Mexican pastor pray, it's terrifying the first time, and you're like, "Oh my God, what's happening?"
Yes.
And it is so fun because they're like screaming and like running around and like sweating. Oh, it's great. But like the first time you see it, you're like, "What is happening?" Because you don't understand. The translator can't keep up because they're just like yelling and screaming, and oh, it's great. But then afterwards, you get into it, and you're like, "Yeah, it's exactly."
You just reminded me of a story, and I need to share this real quick. A very good family friend of ours when I was younger passed away, Mrs. Benuelos. She was the very nice abuela of the neighborhood. She would have parties and quinceañeras and invite the whole neighborhood. She passed away. The whole neighborhood turned out. I did not know this, but apparently in Hispanic funerals, mariachi trumpets are a thing. Seated right next to them, and that was something I did not understand. Like, why are there? Because I'm used to seeing, from movie and TV and family funerals that I've been to, it's a very somber, quiet thing. There's not a mariachi band in the corner. It is a celebration of life, but again, at the time, 6-year-old brain was like, why is there a band at a funeral playing? And every 5 minutes, it'd be this every 5 minutes, it'd be this 2 or 3 minute just uproarious uproar from the trumpet second, which I am sitting right next to, by the way. And I'm like, I didn't know there was going to be one there. They came in after we were seated, but it was something I actually went up to my cousin Junior. I actually, to this day, don't know his first name. I don't. Went up to him and I was genuinely curious years later. I'm like, what's with the music at the funeral? Because I was confused, and he explained it to me, and I honestly have forgotten it all these years later. But it was this weird, I'm not used to this, but I'm not going to say anything because I don't want to be rude. Any others? Yes.
So,
Sorry,
I don't
Katie.
know if y'all know this, but California is a culture all of its own. I grew up in a very small town in Georgia.
Oh boy.
Oh
no.
Yeah.
So how long have you been in our lovely side of this universe?
This is my 3rd year. And when I moved here, when I went to the first crew meeting, I hadn't really been around because it's a big city to me. It was crazy. At the first crew meeting I went to, I think Christian was there. I started crying because there was just so much going on, and there was so much everything was so different. And clearly now I'm comfortable and I found my grind. But California is so different, and it's crazy.
And what's hilarious is I bet anyone from California, if they went to Georgia for 3 years, would say the same thing about Georgia.
It's amazing how watching Dakota get pelted by water.
You're right.
Okay, so
Katie's going next because she's giving me the death glare.
Okay, so my family lived in South Carolina for 5 years. Connor was born there. I went back to go visit some cousins
over my winter break about a year ago, and I remember I got in on a Saturday and I went to church with them on Sunday, and we were brought up in the Lutheran church, very traditional hymns, order of service, that kind of thing. My cousins are Southern Baptists. I was very, very tired because I flew across the country, long flight. I'm starting to fall asleep in church, and all of a sudden the preacher just slams his hand down on the pulpit, and he's like up there yelling and being so loud and just like so all over the place. And I was like, what is going on right now? This is so different from what I'm used to in church. Like, what?
Are we in trouble?
Very like vibrant, like Baptist, like
Fire and brimstone.
Yeah. I was like, this is so weird. I was not used to it at all. I'm used to like church being like you can hear a pin drop. Yeah.
Say, if unto the Lord you shall pray! Yeah.
That's called an altar call.
Yes. Yep. Yeah.
Alright, so what was it? 5th grade? Yeah, 5th grade I had to be like 11. I went to Australia for the first time.
Oh boy.
You know, I went to the restaurant there with just a group of kids. We were just learning. And I thought they was just gonna have regular food there. I wasn't tripping about it. I was just like, okay, I'm looking at the menu. Everything was good. They got pizza, everything. I look all the way at the bottom. It said kangaroo. I was like,
oh yeah.
Wait a minute. What's going on? I ordered it. I didn't think it was true. They set it down in front of me. It's delicious, by the way. Then I went to the zoo, and then they had a whole bunch of kangaroos walking around. We got to pet them. I was like, I'm sorry, you're very delicious.
So one more, and I'll go to Tony, because then we got to wrap it up. But Tony.
Okay, so mine's not really religious or anything, but so for those of you who don't know me, I'm a car person.
Who are you?
I'm a car person. But I live, breathe, eat. I'm cars all the time. And
I've seen it. It's really gross.
And so I took beginning ROP automotive last year, and all of a sudden these special needs kids come in, and everybody was kind of making fun of them behind their back, and I was like, it's not really cool, to just make fun of them. It's not their fault that that's how they are. And our teacher said, who wants to help them do this? Because they were also really into cars, the kids that came in, and they loved working on them whenever they could. So they would come in, and there would be about 2 or 3 of us, me being one of them, that would work with them as much as we could and teach them as much as we could while we were still learning. And so that kind of helps with the effective teaching and learning that Katie talked about, but also it was a real eye-opener of not only us like certain things, people that learn slower or may not look or be like us, they like those same things too. So it was a real big eye-opener of, wow, like it's a bigger community than I thought. Like I thought car people were very small, but then you go and you see, not only white people like it or brown people or black people. Like it's very, some people stereotype it as, street racers are mostly white. It's not true. I don't know that for a fact.
So what you're saying is you street race. Please speak closer into this microphone.
I'm a police officer. But it was a real big eye opener to see.
Tony, T-O-N-I.
You spelled it wrong.
I'm trying to help you, man. Don't want to.
I mean, you spelled it right. But it was a real big eye opener to see not only certain people and certain cultures like it, different people like it, and it kind of brings everybody together. And once people saw that they liked working on cars and they could get it after you work with them a little bit, they stopped making fun of them and they started helping them learn. And so it was really cool to just see them go from being made fun of to being kind of like part of our class family. And it was really cool to see that come together.
Yeah, so ultimately from all the stories that got told, it seems like no matter what the interaction was, you realize there's not really that much difference. Yeah, they made do or carry out different traditions or different practices on certain things than you do, but ultimately the purpose of them are the same. It's for religious reverence. It's their heritage. Every culture, every person has their own way of doing things that's either based on their faith, based on where they come from geographically, ethnically, all that, but ultimately it's all pretty much the same and we're all the same people. And with that comes the respect of knowing if you're going to be introduced to another culture. Lauren, please. Trying to wrap this up. There we go. Good job. Do some stretches.
Okay.
Ultimately, if you know you're going to be interacting with a lot of different cultures, if you go into it open-minded and willing to learn, you'll end up a lot better. Because I'll be honest, there were some times where I knew I was going to be interacting with other cultures that I did not know was going to happen. For example, I'll end on this note. There is a very large contingent of Russian scouts at the National Jamboree. They're very scary-looking people. I met a 12-year-old Russian scout that looked like a WWE wrestler. It was terrifying. They invited us back to their camp. I'm like, okay, you guys seem cool and nice and not terrifying. Their scout leaders looked like ex-KGB and Spetsnaz. They have shaved heads, tattoos. Like, one of them looked like a Bond villain with an eye scar. I was like, what did I do? And he's like, Mr. whatever his last name was, I can't remember. We have some American scouts that want to visit our camp, and the guy kind of looks and he's like all angry and Bond villainy. He's like, good! God, we have goulash already! I'm like, what is happening? So, if you go into it open-minded and willing to try new things and meet new people, it's awesome. Also, I'll tell this story outside of my teaching. I also raised the Bolivian flag upside down in front of like 10 Bolivian scouts visiting the summer camp because no one told me which side was up. It's 3 colored stripes. I don't know. I think technically I declared war on someone. I think that's what like, if you fly it one way, you're at war. Fly it one way, you're at peace. Bolivia was at war for 5 minutes at Camp Fleischmann. That's all I know. So,
the shortest war in history.
Yes. Accept other cultures. Be nice, friendly, courteous, kind. You've heard that before. Thank you.
Once again, for everyone who doesn't know, my name is Arvin. If that's hard to remember, you can call me Starvin Arvin. That's what I always tell people. It's because I'm skinny. I get a lot. Cheese man. Yeah. All right. So my topic isn't as fun or interesting, sadly, but it's on counseling, which is really important as well. A big position that we always have. I don't know who it is this year. Do you know? We usually have a chaplain's aide.
There's multiple people that will be.
Okay, we're gonna have assigning them. A lot of what I'm talking about is their role. Last year we had Dakota, but this goes for everybody because everybody can help counsel other people. So, why do we counsel? Why do you come into counseling? Why do we have counselors in high school? Besides for classes. Megan.
So they can help solve problems.
Put the paper down. That is correct. I printed it out also. Alex.
It's someone that they can go to if they feel like they can't share anything with anyone or they have no one else to turn to.
Right, so they're kind of like somebody they can go for confidentiality, right? Somebody that you hopefully trust to not tell other people what you're saying. Tony.
This happened last year at class here. A couple of kids, probably a lot of you heard about it. 2 kids got hit on 49. And then we actually had counselors at the school for the kids that knew them. And so that's another thing for counselors is for if you're going through a hard time, it really does help.
Yeah, and we have that. I go to San Diego State University. We've had some problems with kind of some anti-Muslim groups, things like that. They're writing some graffiti. They're writing some hate posters. So we always have counselors available that if you need help, if you need someone to talk to help get through something, that's what counselors are here for. The other thing on this paper is you can help develop a more effective staff member or a more effective scout or scout leader if you're having problems or if you're trying to find out what to improve yourself on, which is interesting. All right, so you can see counseling in every form, right? We have scout to scout. This can be, just going through having some problem on a camping trip, just trying to help them through a tough time. You have staff to staff. You have adult leader to scout, adult leader to adult leader.
every single way we can have counseling, provided we have 2 deep leadership, because we can't break that. All right. So, okay, when we're talking about counseling, if you want to go get counseling from somebody, where should we try to find a place to go get counseling? Like, what type of area is a good place for counseling?
Somewhere quiet, out of earshot but in sight.
Out of earshot, but in sight. Okay, so again, we want to get the 2 deep leadership, so you have to be in sight if you're doing a one-on-one. But the whole thing is you want to be out of earshot so that a lot of people go, especially if we have some sort of a problem with another staff member and you want to go seek assistance or you want to go tell somebody about it, you also don't want to be known that you went. So there's somebody that you can go up to by yourself. They don't tell anybody. You don't tell anybody. You're out of earshot. Everything that you say in the room stays in the room so that nobody else gets hurt in the situation. Because it's up to you as the person. You're trying to solve some problem that you have by yourself. So there's no need to bring anybody else involved unless it's strictly necessary. All right. So now we're going to go, instead of you trying to get counseling, if you're actually being the one who's counseling somebody else, what are some steps that we need to take? What are some things that we need to do as a counselor? Katie.
Don't judge. You need to keep an open mind. Like, you're not here to pass judgment on someone.
Right, you should go in you should go in impartial. You might be in part of one group. If this is you're part of Waterfront and somebody's coming in to tell you something bad about Waterfront, you gotta not try to defend it. You have to just listen, which can be hard to do.
Yeah, I think the best thing is not to try to provide solutions, but just be there to listen.
That's so good. Okay, when I was reading this over, there's this line that said, "Give no advice," which I thought was really, really weird as a counselor. Just like, oh, okay, so let's not tell them how to fix the problem. That's not it. It's basically saying, as a counselor, you're there to listen. Most of the time when people come in to get help, they're not even looking for solutions. They're looking for somebody to talk to. They're looking to spill out all of their problems or feelings or stress to somebody that they trust. Not saying that we can't also give solutions or give help. So if they're asking for, what are some ways to help, what are some things that we can do, that's when we're going to look and explore multiple solutions. Try to see which one fits the best for your individual situation, because everyone's different. And then we'll go from there to see how we can fix the problem. And if you, the counselor, and you, the other person, both can't figure it out, you can go to somebody higher and bring them in and try to get some help. So our whole goal here is you have to keep it in a safe environment, keep it confidential, and your whole goal is to make sure that the person is getting help and person is figuring out what they can do to fix the problem or get over the problem. All right. So as the person's talking to you, what are some things that you want to do as the counselor to show, to help them make sure that you're getting the information? Yeah.
Like clearly convey that you're actively listening.
Right. So, you want to make sure it's not like nod your head the whole time, but you want to make sure that you're yeah, I'm getting it. Okay. Don't be the active listener guy. But you want to make sure that you are paying attention. You're clearly showing that. If there's anything that's confusing, you can ask them about it, get clarification. Connor?
I was going to say, sometimes try and relate to them, because I know probably many of us here have gone through the scouting program at that time, and they can relate to some of the situations they're going through.
Yeah, that's perfect. There's a lot of different situations, and if you might not know it best, but you know somebody else that can help you, that knows that situation better, you can also try to talk to them. There's a little quote in here. It's near the back. Where is it? It was about sympathy and empathy. So, where'd it go? So, sympathy is what you feel for a man who has fallen down a well. This is a metaphor, okay? Don't fall down a well. Yeah.
Glad I'm not.
Glad I'm not in the well. And empathy is what you feel when you're in the well with them. So basically saying that sympathy is that you feel bad for them. Empathy is that you've been in the same place as them. So if you've had a shared experience, that's empathy. If you haven't felt the same experience, but you still feel sadness, that's sympathy. And you want to show one or both because that can really help the person both connect to you as the listener and feel better about themselves. So another important thing is to make sure when you're listening to get all the facts. The reason that they tell you not to give advice is because you don't want to be giving advice in the middle of their story, in the middle of what they're telling you, and not get all the information. You don't want to get a big conflict with somebody else, but you haven't heard the actual side of it. Yeah.
Only try and get the facts if they're willing to give it. If they don't want to tell
That's
you
a good
something,
point.
don't prod for it.
Yeah, you shouldn't want to make it feel like a cross-examination or an investigation of some sort. They should be leading the talking. You can ask some questions, and you can ask, do you feel comfortable talking more about this? If they say no, you drop it. So again, this is for them, not for you. And then the next thing, it's telling you to know your own limits as a counselor. If you've completely understood the problem that they've told you, but you know that you yourself can't solve it by yourself, you don't have the power, you don't have the authority, then don't try to go out of your way, as in don't overstep your boundary. Go find the next person up that can actually help you solve the problem. Don't try to be a one-man army and get into more trouble yourself and for the other person. Katie.
Can I throw something out there?
Yeah.
So, like, so what I thought you were going with that was, like, if you have someone who wants to come talk to you and it's a subject that you may not feel comfortable with this person, like, discussing with this person, yes, we want to help each other out. We'll be a family by the end of the summer, but your own mental health is important as well. So don't subject yourself to a conversation that you're not comfortable having, and maybe direct them to someone who might also be able to help them who doesn't have the same reservations about that subject that you do.
Yeah, I agree with that. Both you and the listener should be comfortable speaking about the topic. Yeah, good point, Katie. And the last main thing in here is to be a friend, which we've heard friendly a lot in these talks. So the whole point is that not only for this session, but for the future, after talking with them once, they should be comfortable coming back to you. A lot of times counselors will say, all right, here's the solution I've given you. Go try it. Come back to me in 2 weeks, and we'll reassess and see what else we need to do. So if you intimidate them or you're asking too many questions, you're not being a very good counselor, because then they're scared to come talk to you, or they feel even worse about the situation after they came and talked to you, which is bad. So we really want to make sure that you're keeping a nice, friendly environment while also trying to be productive with helping them with the problem. So there's evaluating the session. So the main points that you want to do when you're a counselor, you got to make sure that you're being a good listener. You're giving advice only when appropriate and only when they want to hear advice. A lot of times people will, they'll say if you're in a really bad mood, you've already gone through a lot. If people try to give you advice, that can make you even more bad. I've gone through that with my parents. It's not good. Like, if you're in that mood that anything that people say, like, you should try this, you immediately reject, then you shouldn't be trying to get advice at all. It's not going to help you. You should be able to keep the talking going. Try to find a solution yourself. If not, try to find somebody else that can get you a solution. Question them without making them feel really intimidated. And just make sure that overall they're being helped with the problem. Especially if we have a problem within staff, go get help as soon as possible so that we can all have a good, fun summer. And I don't know if we're doing Icarus again this year. Most likely. Yes. Icarus is a good way to get out some stress and
frustrations without having it being aimed at any one individual person. So you usually do that, I think, like once a week. It's kind of a place that you can come, just tell your problems, what you're feeling, what you think needs to be changed. It's a no stress, no judgment zone, and it's really helpful if you're going through any problems. Or you can just find counseling. All right, that's it.